If you're looking for the latest news in the world of live streaming, then you're in the right place. My name's Krishna Day. I am one of the co-hosts of Livestream Insiders, and I'm delighted that you're able to be with me here today. My co-host is usually Peter Stewart, but unfortunately he's not able to join me this week. But more of that a little later in the show. I've got some really interesting stories for you today. I'm going to be looking at different ways that organisations are using live streaming in education. I'm going to also explore a couple of platforms who are experimenting with live streaming. In fact, things that have been happening just in the last few weeks. And I'm also going to share with you some tips in terms of how you can get the most out of using the platform of LinkedIn Live, and some guidance notes. All of the things that I'm talking about today will in fact be covered for you in the show notes that I'll post at the end of the show. If you're new to Livestream Insiders, then this is a show that has actually been broadcasting on various platforms we've used over the last 4 years when we've been together. And in fact, what you'll find is that in terms of the archive of content, you'll find it both as a podcast and also as an archive, not only on Facebook here at Livestream Insiders, but also on YouTube. I'll be doing my best to watch out for any comments that come up from you on the show. However, one of the things that I do want to do is make sure is come back at the end of the show just to check out if there's any other information that you're requesting or any other comments. So I'll do my best to do that. Let's get on with the first story for the show. Thanks again for joining me here for Livestream Insiders. This is being broadcast live on the 1st of September 2019, and it's episode 182. Now, this time of year, perhaps you've already got children who've gone back to school. Perhaps you've got young people in your family who've started university. I know that in terms of my daughters, in fact, my eldest daughter, about this time last year, we were starting to get everything together because she's got her exam results and we knew that she was heading off to university. And also my two other daughters, are returning to college as well. So let's have a look at what one organisation has done, which I think is really interesting if you're in the world of education. Now, I have written quite a lot about using social media in the world of education. And in fact, I did a big post, a big article about a year ago after what's a key date in the academic calendar in terms of when students are looking to get places at university. So all of that is available over at krishna.me and also in the archive of Livestream Insiders. But I was really interested in the approach that this one particular university took. And the university is in the US. And it's called New Haven. The University of New Haven actually was using Facebook Live to connect with parents. But what was interesting, it seems from the article that I read on their site, that they were using Facebook Live in a private group. So basically, Rebecca Kitchell, who's Education Assistant Dean of Students, and Greg Overand, Executive Director of Student Engagement, Leadership and Orientation, actually held some Facebook Lives to actually help parents. And of course, why is that important? Well, in a number of parts of the world, including the US, then parents have a key role to play in terms of supporting their students in terms of the financing of their programs. So I can understand why they'd want to actually talk to parents. So they talked through Facebook Live, and they actually had a private Facebook group for parents and family members where they answered questions about move-in day, getting students settled, and the activities that were planned at the start of Welcome Week for the university's incoming students. And that happened a couple of weeks ago. Just in terms of other things that the article goes on and talks about, and remember this is all available for you in the archive, they actually always have in their live streams a guest. So in terms of Rebecca Kitchell, who's the Assistant Dean of Students, actually hosts these events and actually has other people join her. I'll come at the end of this segment to let you know more about their forthcoming event that they've got going on Facebook Live as well. They wanted people to post questions and encourage parents and families of returning students to share their own tips for move-in day in the comments section of the live video. Now, because it seems like it was on their Facebook group, I couldn't find it on their Facebook page. There isn't an archive of it. There is a summary on their Facebook page. And one of the things that was interesting for me to note is that there were questions there in terms of where is the archive, because people want to be able to share the archive with people who are perhaps not on Facebook. And I think that's something to consider. Facebook is a great platform for live streaming. However, don't leave your content locked in a group on Facebook where it actually is important information for other people to find out about. You could, of course, actually have it behind an email opt-in if you were concerned about it, just making it publicly available, but that's the kind of question that was being asked. Other people, of course, actually were very thankful for the live streams, but do remember, if you're trying to make this content available to as many people as possible, in this case it was parents and family members, for people actually who are starting the University of New Haven, then you need to think about what's the way to get that content to them. In terms of, as they wrapped up the live video, the one I'm talking about in question, they told parents and family members where to find in terms of, this is Rebecca Kitchell, on the day of moving in day. And I think that was really helpful. So you got to know a little bit about them before the move-in day, and then obviously when move-in day happens, if it's anything like the university that my daughter went to or started at a year ago, it's very, very hectic. You'll usually get a time slot to be able to go in, pick your keys up and move into your apartment or your room, whatever you may have at the university. They also reminded people, in terms of in that live stream, of the resources and support that was available to ease the transition for the university's newest students and families. So their next live stream is actually taking place on Wednesday, September the 4th. So if you've got a young person who's at University of New Haven, you actually might want to check out their Facebook group. If you're a parent or a member of, or you know somebody who's a member of going to University of New Haven, or one of their family members. And their next live stream is actually with the University of New Haven Police Chief James Gilman. Doesn't say anything more about what the content of that live stream is about, but that might be of interest for you to check out if you know people at that university. The next story I've got for you coming up now is another one which is education related, and this is about how you could be thinking about using live streaming as part of your integrated communications on a particularly challenging topic. And that is in terms of the zoning of schools. So let me tell you a little bit about this story, which again is coming from the US. And in terms of this story, it's about Williamson County School Board actually has approved an additional funding for a middle school in their area in a place called Henpeck Lane. And why was this of interest? Well, there's a huge amount of money that's been actually allocated to create a new middle school, is 22.3 million. And when it's completed, the total cost of the middle school will most likely be around 40 million. And it's projected to open by fall 2020. There seems to have been a huge number of students in the area, or new students, across a number of different age ranges, and therefore they've actually been looking at this. And if you do a bit of a Google search, you can find stories around this going back a couple of years. And in fact, there was over a dozen portables were installed on the campus of Oakview Elementary to temporarily house students that are going to be attending the new elementary school that's under construction. Now, in order for the new middle school to be built, there's actually also a lot of work that's going on in the infrastructure of a 35-acre property that needs to be improved, and that also includes the extension of the City of Franklin's sewer line. So lots of things have to happen before that school gets built and opened. What I thought was particularly interesting is, if you've got children or know of children who've gone to school, you know that one of the most sensitive things is about what's the zone, what's the catchment area for a school. So in fact, in this month of September, the Williamson County Board of Education is setting the zoning parameters for the new middle school. And in October and November, they'll be hosting a series of public meetings to discuss the proposal, while the board will actually be voting on the proposal in November. And a naming committee is also going to be formed in January. But the article that I saw, I thought was really interesting, is they're starting a listening tour series. And that series, Williamson County Schools are actually doing so in terms of using Facebook Live. And they've started off that series. And the article goes on to say, which was in the Tennessean.com online publication, our past social media videos have got a lot of views. Parents are busy and we want to make an effort on social media platforms to make sure they're heard more than in the past. Viewers will be able to ask questions by clicking on the comment section, and they'll answer as many as they can during the live stream. They're also hosting a physical meeting actually in Franklin, in fact in the week ahead on the September the 5th. And they're also having another Facebook Live session on the 12th of September. So again, I think that's a really interesting way that local government and schools are coming together in terms of reaching out to parents, reaching out to local communities to answer questions on what is going to be a potentially kind of sensitive issue. And perhaps, you know, people are anxious about, well, will my children be going to this new school, or will they be staying at the current school? And that's certainly, I know, something that I'd be concerned about if I was a parent. So I thought that was a great way that actually could be used in terms of actually live streaming. Again, you don't have to use Facebook Live. That's the platform they've chosen. There are lots of other platforms you could use. You might, for example, think about using YouTube. You could actually embed that content on your website, drive people back to your website for additional resources and so on. So just two interesting examples about how live streaming is being used in different areas in terms of supporting education. Thank you so much for joining me here for Livestream Insiders. This is episode 182, and all of the stories that I'm actually covering today will be available for you in an archive at the end of the show. If you haven't met me before, my name's Krishna Day, and I'm one of the co-hosts here for Livestream Insiders, and you'll find me at krishna.me online. My next story is one that might surprise you, and that's about social media platform Reddit. You may or may not be a member of that platform, but in fact, they've actually been testing live streaming out, and they did a test over a number of days between 9 and 5. Now, I don't know if that 9 and 5 was Eastern Time, Central Time, or Pacific Time, I'm not sure. But basically, for eligible users, they actually have been testing, doing a 5-day trial of live video streaming. Not everybody is able to live stream or was able to live stream during that test. There are some details in my archive for the show in terms of you'll see information about their community guidelines for their live streaming. And they said that all videos needed to be safe for work, and that's why not everybody would be allowed to stream. There's a number of rules that they published, including in terms of the things that you would not be allowed to post, which I think was interesting, that they included things like hoax promotions and content that would be seen as highly offensive and upsetting. Videos for those people who are allowed to stream will be actually showing up, or were showing up. I didn't manage to catch it live myself. Let me know if you were able to see this or actually were testing it out because you're active in the community on Reddit. But basically, the most popular live streams were being posted on the front page of the site. They would actually only allow for 100 live streams to run concurrently and for up to 30 minutes during this test. People would also be able to vote up live streams that they saw. So they actually could also downvote live streams as well in the forum. Just a couple of other things that I noticed were from a few articles that I was reading, and also from the Reddit site itself. They actually said on Reddit, this is about having fun as a Reddit community, and if you all enjoy it, we'll continue to explore how it might work as an actual feature. This is just a 5-day test that they were running. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions or other feedback, please share them in the comments. We generally want to hear what you all think and want to look at the comments that you're posting and including those without many upvotes. So they were saying, even if you had a comment that didn't get lots of upvotes, they will be definitely checking out what people in their community thought about the live streaming feature. The other thing to notice in terms of when it was actually stated that the live stream would be within the 9 till 5 hours, it was so that Reddit employees could actively moderate it. They're striving to differentiate themselves, they said, from other platforms based on the fact it's not all about the individual streaming or their following, but rather the quality of the broadcast. Based on what we've seen so far, it certainly feels different than some other live streaming platforms that they've seen. So really interesting to see if Reddit will continue with the idea of live streaming going forward. If you did test it out, I'd love to know what you thought of it. And another story for you this week about actually another platform who actually not just testing it, but are actually rolling out live streaming to their members. And this is one that if you're a gamer, you might actually have come across and might in fact have been using, and that's the platform Discord. Discord was built to bring people together in terms of around gaming, and they actually have got 14 million active daily players, which is quite amazing. So Discord have now launched a feature in the last couple of weeks called Go Live, and this is available for the desktop application. So they launched this on the 15th of August, and it allows anybody to stream with a PC in terms of their game and any voice channel, and up to 10 people at the time. The Go Live feature is intended to give people the feeling of gaming in a living room with your friends, and it works on Discord's game detection, the same feature that shows friends that you're playing in terms of or gaming on the platform. So as I said, this might be something, if you've already tested out this as a platform in terms of your gaming, then you might want to check out whether you've got this feature available to you. Now, I noticed on their Facebook page that in terms of mid-August, they actually said, I think it was about the 24th of August, they said that we're continuing to roll out Go Live and doubling those who have access to it from 7% to 14%. So certainly it's not widely spread in terms of access at this point in time. The article that I was reading about it said it's not taking aim at Twitch, Mixer or any other live streaming platforms. There's no webcam support. And it's also limited to 10 viewers because of bandwidth restrictions and latency goals. Mac and Linux computers also are not supported because most of Discord's core users run Windows as their platform or the way that they're streaming their gaming. And they said they eventually plan to build out a mobile version as well. So that was an article that I saw on The Verge, and again, we've seen quite a lot of developments in terms of the world of live streaming and gaming in the last number of months in particular. And if you go back to episode 181, you'll actually find I was talking about live streaming and gaming, and particularly in terms of how it could help you if you're a non-profit, if you're a charity, to boost your donations. There was a really interesting series of examples. In that case, it was actually using the live streaming platform Twitch that you might want to check out. My final story that I've got for you today is about LinkedIn Live. Now, I don't know about you, but I did apply for the beta when it first came out, and I actually do have access. I just haven't had a chance to try it out in the last 2 or 3 weeks since I've had access. But what was really interesting is this last 2 weeks, I actually have had a few people ask me about LinkedIn Live. And lo and behold, around the same time that actually LinkedIn had provided some guidelines. So there was always a series of help pages on LinkedIn. And I've covered this on Livestream Insiders in previous episodes from when it was launched earlier this year. And I actually had somebody reach out to me very specifically about content and ideas about how to use LinkedIn Live and different platforms that could be used to actually stream to LinkedIn, because this is not something, LinkedIn Live is not something you can do at this point in time from your mobile phone. You have to have access to it, and you also have to use a third-party tool to be able to use LinkedIn Live. Yes, you could actually use your mobile device if you're using one of their approved solution providers such as Switcher Studio, but a lot of the providers that they're integrated with actually are desktop. And so this is an interesting document. Again, I've put a link to actually how you can get a hold of it if you're exploring or considering using LinkedIn Live, either in terms of on your company page or in fact on your own profile. LinkedIn actually have got a number of things in their document. They actually go through things like choosing a broadcaster tool and how to integrate it, and some ideas in terms of troubleshooting. What particularly caught my attention was some of the ideas that they have in terms of how you might use LinkedIn Live. And so in this particular case, I actually want to just go through 5 top line areas that they actually share in their document. And so what they cover is how to be interactive, so ask me anything. LinkedIn Live is just like other live stream platforms where you actually can see what people are posting, and you can therefore look to respond to it. So their suggestion for making interactive live streams are Ask Me Anythings. They also give you some other examples of organizations and individuals who've been using LinkedIn Live in this document. They had a second topic which that you could think about covering in your live streams, which that's news. So that might be about breaking news, things that are happening in your industry. And so that's what we do here on Livestream Insiders in terms of exploring actually news that's actually happening. And the third thing is events, in terms of actually how could you think about using LinkedIn Live for your events. And that might be, as an example they give you, is about having a talk from one of the key speakers at your event. Now, one of the things that the document does not go into is actually making sure that you've got rights to content, that you've actually got permissions to live stream, particularly if you're actually covering an event for somebody else or another organization, and also that you've got the permission of the people who are being featured in the video, and also they don't go through anything in terms of other rights and copyright issues in this particular document. So you need to do your due diligence, and the same things will apply on other platforms, but do check out their help pages. The fourth area that they suggest you might want to cover is about celebrations, and that could be major milestones. So they gave examples of, maybe there's something that's happened in your organization in terms of a merger or acquisition. I would just say make sure that you're working with HR and your comms team or external affairs team before you actually jump onto a LinkedIn Live and start talking about sensitive issues such as that. But it actually is a good way for you actually to reach people. And then the final and fifth area that they talk about is about using it for talent branding. For me, I'd call that the employer brand. And this is an example that they gave, which is actually you could do an FAQ with, for example, a hiring manager. Perhaps you've got areas where you're recruiting a number of roles, and there's nothing more powerful than actually hearing from the people that you'll be working with and actually puts and brings that vacancy to life. Now, many, many years ago, well over 10 years ago, I was doing that for an organization, a recruitment organization, where they were looking to actually have interviews. And I did podcast interviews with people all over the world, including in China, answering questions about the vacancies that they had to give people a little bit more sense of what the vacancy is. But I think that's a great way that you might consider using that, and that would be great content for your LinkedIn page. One of the things that I do wish that they had included was some ideas in terms of best practice about what to do after a live stream. I actually find LinkedIn, particularly if it's on LinkedIn Live on somebody's personal profile, really, really difficult to navigate, to find and get back to. And one of the reasons for that is that there is not a way at the moment where you can see all of the live streams that you've done or all the videos. You compare it to actually Facebook. On Facebook, what you can do is you can put together, like you can on YouTube, in terms of a gallery of your content. So you can put together a playlist. So let's say, for example, you had live streams that were being done, let's say, all about various vacancies that you're recruiting for. You might want those to be available and easily accessible just for the period of time that that vacancy is live. And then once that vacancy has been filled, you probably don't want to have that as an archive on your page. You might want to archive it yourself, but you may not want to have it on your page. And at this point in time, it's not easy to find content on LinkedIn because there's no kind of sub-archiving or way of archiving it. And I was looking at somebody's live stream just recently on their personal profile. He'd been testing out live streaming. And, every piece of the activity that actually where people were commenting gets posted onto their activity log, which is fine, but also not fine because it doesn't make it easy to then go back and find the other live streams. So one of the things I'd suggest that you do is make sure that you actually have it very easy and able to direct people to the archive of your live stream. Perhaps you also kind of stream to other platforms. But for example, if you're streaming for your personal profile, you could do something like write an article about it and point people to that particular topic, put your show notes in the article as well, and also other resources that you want to direct people to. But I say make it easy for people to find your live streams on LinkedIn, because at this point in time, with there being no playlist facility or way of archiving, then you might want to look at that. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. If you've got any questions about it, then don't hesitate to reach out to me. So I hope you find that article or that document from LinkedIn of assistance, and you can check that out. There's a link to that and also the help resources in the archive of the show notes that I'll be posting. So as I wrap up the show today, I also just have some other news for you. And you might be aware, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, that Livestream Insiders has been broadcasting for 4 years now. We're just into the week of our 4th anniversary. And over the last number of months, you might have noticed that it hasn't always been possible for both of us to be in attendance. That's Peter Stewart and myself. And a few weeks ago, Peter let me know that unfortunately, because of commitments he's got, he's not able to commit to Livestream Insiders. Just from my perspective, this show takes quite a lot of time to put together, as I'm sure you'll know in terms of anybody who's live streaming. And it's not just the preparation beforehand and the stream, but it's also what you do to optimize your content afterwards. So it actually is regrettable that Peter isn't able to join us in terms of going forward. But that made me think about what do I want to do in terms of with Livestream Insiders. So in fact, what I want to just mention is we actually are now going to cease doing live streams on every other week for Livestream Insiders. As you know, for many, many years, we actually live streamed every single week at the same time. And because of a show that Peter and I do together, which is about smart speakers and audio, which is alternatively streamed, one of the things that we actually do is we have that show at the same time on a Sunday. Because of Peter's commitments, he's not able to continue with Livestream Insiders. And I've made a decision at the moment that in terms of for my workflows and the commitments that I have, that I'm actually no longer going to do a live stream of Livestream Insiders every other week. It doesn't mean to say that I'm no longer involved in live streaming. I absolutely am. I'm doing a huge amount, basically on a daily basis, in terms of behind the scenes with clients and people that you won't even know about. But there's multiple live streams I'm doing a day at this point in time. And also, if you've got questions, you can certainly reach out to me. But I just want to say thank you for those of you who've been really loyal kind of viewers, members of the community here, people who watch the replays, people who listen to the replays. I hope you will find it of value. I will continue to post onto Livestream Insiders when I've got something that's particularly important that I want to share with you. I'll actually certainly make sure there's a live stream that we'll do or some other resources to assist you. And it may be that I actually also, collaborate with somebody else or have somebody else join me for certain episodes. But for now, as we've actually now just reached our 4th anniversary, I thought that was a good time to say, okay, let's mothball the show for the moment. We hope that you've enjoyed the last 4 years of content. And thank you so much for being with me live here today, or for those of you who are watching or listening to the archive of this episode 182. So this is me, Krishna Day, bringing together actually the end of this series of content from Livestream Insiders. Like I said, I'm actively involved in live streaming on a daily basis. If you do have questions, reach out to me. I know many people do that on Facebook Messenger, but of course there's other ways you can reach me via my website, but equally in terms of on Twitter or other social media platforms if you do have questions. And I'll certainly be posting other updates, continuing to do that in terms of on the Livestream Insiders page. But at this point in time, this is going to be the final episode for this 4-year series of shows all about live streaming. I hope during that time that you've actually picked up live streaming and expanded your use of it. There's been so many great tools that have been launched and features that have been made available to us. It's so much easier. I was delighted that in this last episode I was able to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn, because obviously that's a platform that was waiting for live streaming for some time. So I hope you'll see that you get access if you've already applied for it. And of course, go back to our archive of shows. All of the notes for this episode, this final episode of Livestream Insiders, streamed live on the 1st of September 2019, episode 182, will be available to you very soon after the show ends. But for now, I'm actually going to say thank you, farewell. Make sure that you check out the work that Peter and I are doing in terms of voice and audio content in terms of our other show, the Smart Speakers podcast. And don't hesitate to reach out to me at krishna.me if you've got any questions about live streaming, social media, or integrating digital communications into your marketing, communications, crisis management, or even employer branding plans. Thanks so much again for being with us for the last 4 years.